Well, good afternoon. The time is 2 o'clock and 22 seconds, and let's start again. As I said, I keep this raw. I'm not going to just cut and paste and, let's stop it and record again because it's not good enough, but it's raw. It's raw. Let's start it off. School's in, and many lessons to be retaught today, because we're unprogramming you, reprogramming you, and re-educating you, because a lot has been indoctrinated for the last 50 years, including myself, until I woke up and had a out-of-body experience, I can say, and because 3 minutes to death and so forth, and no one's ancestry going back, just, I think 6 generations now in Australia, and then 8 generations back in England, roughly, approximately. But there's a reason I can trace my ancestry. Not many people, it is, quite rare to trace one's ancestry back so much. And then with my maternal and paternal DNA, pretty close to 0.001% of the population that goes back to the same region. And if not, I'm the only one that sits before you with a DNA with the maternal and paternal regency of the blood lineage going back 4,000, 6,000 years and beyond into the same region along that Atlantic, Iberian, Celtic coastlines. Now, I don't know how many people come in to our governments and come into our home, and this is our home, and Al Grosby said, oh no, it doesn't matter what colour or your ancestry, pig's ass. It's a lot to do with your ancestry. This is why you guys can only trace probably back to your grandfather or your great-grandfather, great-grandmother or great-grandfather. Not saying you aren't important, but perhaps this is where you generated firstly with your rebirth. That's why I can trace all my lineage, back to the 14th century and beyond. As I say, we go back the 14,000 years, 4,000 years. As I say, I do make mistakes too, because I'm only flesh and blood like you guys, but just with different qualities and uniqueness and gifts that I share with you, and I focus on those gifts to share with you guys. Now, as I was saying previously, the time is 2, now it's probably about 24, and we'll go with the 11 seconds. And it's the first day of the 7th, first day. And it's a Wednesday. Woden's Day. The Norse gods. As I say, you don't idolise them, but nothing says in the book of rules that you, you use every resources that you've got. And you have. 2026, and transmitting and casting out and receiving 4-T, the sanctuary, pursuit of the golden truth, unconditional love, divine love flows out to each and every one of you. There's no accident that you're sitting here watching the solar Jaguar Emperor and channeling through my white solar wizard, Kin, K-I-N, 7-4, and Pulse 9. Intent, Pulse, Receptivity, and Enchant. Focus your attention on my deliverance of the golden truth. Okay, I know there's a lot to focus on. You should focus on what you have for lunch How are you going to pay this bill? How are you going to put petrol in the car? You focus on a lot of things. But you have to have total clarity coming from being coherence. And informing and transmitting the golden truth of light out to you guys. I am who I am. The great mass awakening. Unstoppable, inevitable, irreversible, unavoidable. Awake, rise and shine, abracadabra. And you know, I always go on about those Habsburg forgeries, because with those forgeries, it's changed the whole course of our human being history on planet Earth. Mother Goddess Gaia. Because with those forgeries, I don't know why, when they found it was like, put it up against the Emperor on that timeline, why the Emperor didn't just squash the whole Habsburgs. He should have used his forces back then, but that's what I mean. That's mercy. He showed mercy. But one thing he should have done was destroy that forgery. He should have destroyed the whole forgeries. He should have burnt it, ripped it up, torn it up, and burnt it. He gave it back to the Habsburgs, and then the Habsburgs played that waiting game, and up until I appeared again in the 1400s, might have been earlier, but anyway, it reappeared. And the Emperor, once again, of the day, on that timeline, sorry, I stand corrected. The Habsburgs played the waiting game, and they kept that forgery in vaults, in their vaults, which is basically like safes, but they hid it. They hid it from the general masses. What should have happened, they should have went out, word after word after word, like I say, should have went out through the masses and said way back then that the Habsburgs were just fraud and fiction and falsehood. But, as I said, the Emperor of the day must have granted them mercy. So, we kick along, and then the Habsburgs had a relative, a Habsburg, as an emperor. So he signed off on those forgeries and made it law with his signature, with his false signature, because he shouldn't have been there in the first place. He got there on forgery in the first place. Everything's fiction and falsehood. You guys could, even Blind Freddy can see that now. It's all being created on a falsehood. And then they created taxes and wealth. Created a title that is a fiction title, Archduke. And the Austrians freaking ran with it, because when you put a lie out there for so long, it becomes truth. And then he, through lies and fiction, stamped off on it and created law out of fakeness. And with that fakeness, that's where your taxes and everything came into it. So they created for themselves great wealth. And with that great wealth, well, they could oppress and suppress the populace. With that great wealth they extracted from the populace to create their armies, to enforce their lies of fiction. So, yeah, fast forward with all this fictionness and falsehood still happening for the last 400 years. I think we're coming up to 700 years when the Cathars were exterminated, genocide, terminated, just plain murdered, whichever way you want to put it. That's been 700 years, and that prophecy said, yes, what's going to happen now is going to happen. But the Habsburgs, yeah, they got found out again. Well, it came to light again because they wanted it all confirmed, and they really wanted it passed as facts. But it was still passed over as fiction. 1854, I think that was, from that Partridge. And he was an expert on fraud. And he said how bloody absurd this is. It's been kicking around. They've made it law through their fiction, and he still said it's fraud. And it's still bumping along as falsehood even in today. And that is why you've got these corporations and the deception and your lies. It's a flow-on effect. That's your domino effect from those forgeries and fiction from the Habsburgs. And then they went sort of underground anyway after that serviced. First World War knocked them about big time, but they were allowed to keep their wealth and their estates, which was created, that wealth was created on forgery and fiction and falsehood. As I say, with that wealth too, they created their own fiction legals. Everything's falsehood. It's still that Habsburg's forgery is still kicking along today because they put their Habsburg's relatives and that after they infiltrated the other families and married into the other families to try and reinforce their falsehood and fiction, but they haven't got that pure DNA like my family has, and that's why it's the regency of the bloodline. But yeah, focus on that forgery, how it's still stuck around until this day, and how our fiction legals and fiction judges and so forth, and I know I've spoken to sergeants and commanding officers within the police force, are obviously on my side because they tell me these stories for a reason. But the judges are evil. Not all, but some. And that's what I'm saying. You cannot put everyone in the same pigeonhole. Some are good, some are bad. But the bad ones definitely infect and has a big effect on the general populace. That's why when I see, and I've been growing up, and as I said, 1964, Canada, for some reason, came up with this multiculturalism, but it got coined after the Second World War because all us, well, they were white countries, weren't they? Whereas we slaughtered each other. And in the other world, the Arabic world and so forth, they were just populating themselves. Where we were depopulating ourselves in that First and Second World War. But we had peace and harmony after the Second World War. First World War, Habsburgs, all their treasures and that were taken back because obviously we had good people in there at that time, on that timeline, and upheld the forgery, which is fraud and fiction and falsehood. This is what you're living in today, a day of deceptions and lies, and this is why I sit before you and you should be focusing on me because I'm telling the golden truth. And all this history is still there in the history books and through the internet. All you got to do is put in Habsburg's forgeries and those facts will come in front of your face because that's why you face up to the facts. And it's been strong because they've indoctrinated us for 700 years. 400, 500 years through these Habsburg's forgeries. And as I said, it didn't stop them even when the second, this is the third time I'm putting it before you guys because now we've got social media and you've got to spread the word of the word of the word and get this flowing out because, as I say, by illuminating the path of righteousness, to everyone jump on board and spread the word of word, and it's all hope and faith and unconditional divine love. And it's the golden truth. We keep directing the golden truth out there and spread it throughout the land now through social media. Share this. Share it with friggin' everyone on planet Earth, Mother Goddess Gaia, that we're not going to put up with these Habsburgs forgeries anymore. And I dare say it could be, it's a possibility that they're the master, that's the master puppeteer behind the backgrounds. They got found out, but they just moved themselves, underground sort of thing, behind the curtain. but they still stayed in play, putting all their relatives and that within our parliaments. That's why our Grasby could be an agent of the Habsburgs. All these ones that have come into Australia, and Albanese is another one. He could be an agent. As I say, possibilities are endless. I look at every avenue, and the square of righteousness, and the four corners of the world, and your four air, wind, fire, earth, and water. And then you've got a fifth one, I believe, too, the ether. Or ether. Anyway, back to the Habsburgs. I am sick of this deception of lies and scammers. And it's the greatest robbery of all time. They've robbed the wealth of the masses. They extracted it through their illegal fiction laws. And because it's been around for so long, the populace begins to believe those lies. But we didn't have social media back then. We've only had social media, probably about the 2000s. I remember getting the first computer. I pulled it apart, put it back, just to see how it worked, the workings of a computer. And that's why you've got that default setting on a computer. And this is, you might as well classify me as the default setting on your computer. The default, we go back to the grassroots, the originals, my biological, genetic and genealogy makeup, which cannot be disputed because it's in me blood and bones and me flesh also. And through me master numbers, the astrology, it cannot be altered or made up. I couldn't even make it up if I wanted to. It's God's plan, God's glory and God's kingdom. Now, if we got the Habsburgs, forgeries and fiction embedded in our brains, because it is, okay, and that's why things are drastically going wrong now. When we were back in Brittany, back in France, we were the nobles of the robe and nobles of the sword. So we had the legality, the facts, the factual legalities, and the factual, enforcers too, military might. And all that came to crumbling down through, as you know, the French Revolution, and through fake popes. The hierarchy should be blood also. They were called high priests or high priestesses. And it didn't matter when you're in the Cathars, Cathars, it didn't matter. You had female, male priests. Didn't matter. But the Vatican didn't like it. And that's why with the Pope and so forth, the Pope and the King at the time, or Emperor at the time, they just got together because they're all there on fiction. It's not God's ways. And this is why it's all crumbling down now. As I said, a Pope had it in their blood originally to be in that position. It was all passed down by blood. The families that have been here the longest, and it just makes sense to me, the ones that have been here the longest, of course they'd have the say over the granular plans of everything, because they've been here the longest. But how do you think we've survived for this long? And as I say, with all those indigenous races within the Mother Goddess Gaia, had a connection. We got a connection with the celestial and terrestrial, which is firmly planted on the terracotta, which is Mother Goddess Gaia. Whatever position and location you are, there's a reason for that too, meaning and purpose. I think each and every one of you's out there, everyone, that includes everyone. have gratitude and appreciation. But we must get this out there, the Habsburgs forgeries, because that is where your wealth is, and all that wealth has been accumulated through forgery, mafia, as I say, our Grasby. I'm getting onto that now. Just hang on. There's lots and lots to focus on. But I just want to get that Habsburgs to the masses, that it's all fiction and falsehood. And that is why the falsehood is crumbling and dissolving now. Because it's all fake. And fiction. And those, after that much time, they've had that time to distort and to fictionalise everything. The whole system. That's why I'm the default setting. I reset it all, sort it all out, and then reboot the whole system, the whole systematic system, because it's all fiction at the moment. And you just can see it. Look what's happening in the island. And dividism's got to stop. And stop to dividism. Everything is to divide us, so we're distracted on other distorted fiction. Got to get with the facts and stick with the facts. You know, they'll end up just erasing Moses and Jesus Christ if they can. They will. And with AI, it's distorting a lot of history now. But think, Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit flowing in, I have this opportunity to put the forgery of the Habsburgs out there yet again for the third time. Third time lucky, they say, don't they? And that is enforced with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Christ, isn't it? The Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, which is within. Now, monoculture. Monoculturalism existed in ancient times, and we were a monoculture all the way up until 1974. And this is where I'm saying these bad, evil critters come into the country, one generation, some aren't even born here, and they get to say what a generation has been here for, say, an ancestry of 6 or 7 fathers of the fathers of the fathers. It just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't make sense that one can come in as a newbie and change a course. And it's bad. It's, as I said, I do believe they're agents working for operatives for the Habsburgs or someone else. And they've been sent here to disrupt our system, and they've done a bloody good job at it. But it wasn't infiltrated. Our Grasby was one. He got his dirty, grubby hands on our political sphere. And there's plenty in our Parliament House now that aren't even second-generational Australians. So what would they know about what we want or need? They don't know a bloody thing, because they're not grounded on our soil of Australia. They shouldn't be in our Parliament. And I don't know why they didn't do this in the Federation 1901 and like they did over in America. But I'd go one step more. I'd be saying, unless you're a second-generation Australian, you've got no say here. You're not going to have a say with people that have been here since day one with the Australian First Fleeters. 11 ships, remember? 11. Big energy pulling power and power over all, the Master 11. And that's what I mean. Racism, back in the day, monoculturalism, no one was going around saying, oh, look at that black man over there. Oh, geez, Todd, that's racism. No, it's not. It's a description. They're all being distorted and just led astray and being distracted with these other friggin' words. Like the Habsburgs, they pluck it out of thin air. And then they find one of their relatives that are in power and they stamp off on it. if you go right into the deepness of who sold off all our public companies and enterprises and organisations, and electricity, big thing. That was with the Rudd government and going up to 2014 too, I think. But the thing is, excuse me, you got to focus on all this evilness and badness. I inform you with the golden truth, and what my big intentions are is justice with a capital J. Now, racism and discrimination never even existed. We accepted everybody who they were, and then you got indoctrinated and brainwashed with these words, racism and discrimination. Didn't affect us at all until we started being patriots for one country. As I said, of course you're going to have more patriotism in a country where your generations have been here for 5 or 6 years than someone that's been here one generation. And someone that's been here with the regency of the blood lineage that's been here and traced back 4,000 years to the one region, paternal and maternal. People need to start wake up to your biological and the biological genetical and genealogy. They're facts. They're golden facts of the golden truth. And wait until these solar flares come through and your other 10 strands of DNA gets activated. Big time. Now, as I said, our Grasby was a grub. He was found out, facts, that he was part of the Italian mafia, Calabrian, is it? Mafia that was down in Griffith that murdered, Donald Mackay. He was part of that. And how many other people now are in Parliament, as I can see down in Victoria? For God's sake, isn't our police force or the Victorian Premier? I know she's got no balls because she's female, but that's just being chauvinistic, which I like to stay away from. But if you're going to take down the males that go into fight for freedom and so forth, like the First and Second World Wars, and before that, through all the battles through history, they were all male. So if you're going to demasculate the males, it's going to be a terrible, sorry state of affairs for the Western culture, because you're going to be overrun by the ones that have still got their masculine side in the males. Now, as I said, so 1969, there was no Racism or Discrimination Act back then. As I said, our Grasby, the dirty mafia male connections, put in that act, racism and discrimination, before most of us were even born. I was only 10 years old when Billy Snedden, I know of Billy Snedden, but I was only 10 years old. No, not even. 5 years old. 5 years old when Billy Snedden done this speech. And yous are all forgotten because you've been indoctrinated and you've been brainwashed. And you've been brainwashed from people born outside Australia coming into our politics, or one generational like Albanese. What gives him the right? He hasn't got the biological factor there at all. His blood lineage you can't even trace his blood lineage. He's a newbie. That's why they tried to squash all this experience from how long you've been here. Like the police force, you had to be in the police force, say 15 years before you could become a sergeant. Everything was done on experience, on the length of time that you were in that system. And they stole that, as I said, going back to the Habsburgs forgeries. And it's not your fault because you don't know any better. You do now because I'm informing you of the blood lineage and how it's supposed to all work through the biological facts. 1969, I was 5 years old, still running around trying to make me way on this planet. Minister for Immigration, Billy Snedden. I am quite determined we should have a monoculture with everyone living in the same way, understanding each other and sharing the same aspirations. We don't want pluralism. That was his speech that broadcasted out to the populace. Now, do you think if he had this social media back in 1974 when Al Grasby had his dirty mitten hands, dirty rotten paws and claws into our politics, they would have known he was the mafia? He probably threatened them for all we know. I know when we had back in the Georgiou Productions and the Georgiou importing business, of course we were threatened. We were threatened. We didn't want to play ball with the evil ways, briberies and kickbacks. And, used to be passed under the table back in the day. Now they're just it's in plain sight. They're doing it above the table. That's why with Labor and the Liberal lobby groups and the preferences, it's all rigged. As I said, it comes from this fiction law from the Habsburgs. That's why when they say the more it changes, the more it stays the same, because it stays the same. All they do is rebrand it or change names. Like with the Habsburgs over there in England, they changed it to Windsor. So everybody's born from the 60s up, unless you're told or informed somehow, or do your research and hope the Christ it's still on the internet, because that's why AI is rewriting history in a lot of ways too. But yeah, they were, and before that there were something girls too, which was part of the Habsburgs' fiction empire. Anyway, that's Australia, and we're all a monocultural society until the grubby hands got onto it. As I said, I think he was only one generation Australian. He might have been two, not too sure, but it doesn't matter because he was bad. He was part of the Italian mafia. He was bad. He shouldn't have been there. And when it got found out 10 years later, everything that bastard done in our politics should have been null and void. Everything, and it's just not him. It's everyone that gets caught with their pants down in the public purse or stealing from the public purse. Most of them go unpunished. Al Grasby died before we found out for sure that he was in the mafia. Maybe that was a pact that he'd done with the devil. I don't know, but I'm sick of all this golden truth coming out, and there's been no consequences. And that I am capital J for justice, and J, a capital J for justice. And I tell you, justice does come with a capital J. That's why I sit here with passion, plenty of passion, patriotism, because we've been in this country now. My generations have been here. I think I'm the 8th generation or 7th generation, going back to the First Fleet, and that's through the Dickinsons and then the Eggletons, and without Eggleton, the whole colonisation would have starved to death. And that's a fact. That's a fact. All these newbies that just come here and plant themselves down and live off our welfare, they don't understand how much sacrifices the previous generations, our ancestors, have made for this country, because they wouldn't have a bloody clue. They don't get taught it overseas. They just think we're an Aussie. An Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. Bloody oath. That's a great chant, because it's more or less a battle chant, because we protect and defend ourselves. Sick of the whole bloody mess we're in, and it was created on purpose for that dividism. And it's been going on for fucking way too long. Way too long. But this is why I'm here, I guess, and that's why it's no accident that you guys are here. And as I said, focus, because a lot's gone wrong. And it's on purpose through fraud and fiction. And what gets under my gate, you go still $100 and you get 6 months for it. These Habsburgs have unimaginable how much wealth they've extracted from the populace. And it's still happening today. Electricity. Public entity that was owned by the public that the government sold off. And now, have a look how many companies have popped up, electricity companies, and how much have made wealth off our electricity. And just an example, I just got my solar panels, 6.6 kilowatt system. I get 3 cents. I get 3 cents back. And they sell the whole grid line through the day. Bugger if I know how many kilowatts is being made. But the electricity companies are saying, it actually costs us our money to keep the infrastructure up. Bullshit, you bought the infrastructure already intact. The only thing you're doing is fixing it when we have storms. And another thing, my plan would put all electricity underground. It'd all go underground. Like Denmark did. Eons ago. Infrastructure. We should never have sold any of our infrastructure. The telephone company, which started off at PGM. And then Telecom, and then it went to Telstra, and they sold it off. That same company today is making billions and billions of dollars on what they sold it for. All those billions and billions of dollars could be going into our infrastructure and tolls. Corporations, that's because your fiction Habsburgs system is still in play. Bad, evil. Get rid of it. And as I say, it's not all. That's why I say you don't sterilise people. Sterilising, is it? Sterilising? But it's a fact. It's a fact. We're in a bad place and it's getting fixed with the white hats and myself coming forward. And as I say, they still control, as you can see in the mass media. If we didn't have, Substract and Rumble. Rumble's another good one. And YouTube so far. So far, so good. Yeah, get it out there. Get that friggin' Habsburgs forgery out there for the third time. It's a big forgery and a big robbery of the wealth, extracting the wealth from the populace. And they tried to make it legal because with their fiction, they fiction legalised it all, made it fiction laws. Nothing to do with our sovereign. This is all about liberation of the intelligence. What have we got? Aligning with everything. Aligning with everything. That's why you mastery of everything. And it's very hard to do. This is why I have the 11, 22 and 33. Mastery. Because I'm capable of making big things happen. So you got to focus out there. Focus on everything. Just use, lunch and dinner and all those other focus things you're on. Just do it spontaneous. Just say, geez, I got to eat. I'm going to have a tuna sandwich. I'm just going to have an apple today. Apple and coffee. Or I'm going to have a beer. Just do things spontaneous. Sometimes spontaneous is the best thing. Out of the extraordinary. Because it's no good flogging the dead horse, is there? Taking chances. 0303. Taking chances. Focus. Focus. As I said, my unconditional divine love goes out there, but fair and we got to be fair and hard. And as I said, only show mercy. You can see what's happened with mercy in the past. They took advantage of it. You've just got to read between the lines and just that judgment call. Got to do a judgment call when it comes to mercy. What do we got? Wow, the twos. Act on your ideas. 0220, my master number 22. And 0 back to the beginnings. Hit the default setting, the default keys. Reformat it. And then reboot it. Illuminating the path of righteousness for everybody to jump on board. And then we cast out and eliminating the path that this unrighteousness wished to take. Riding with their devil and doing those evil satanic rituals. So, act on your idea. Now, the tarot cards. Happy to be here. I'm excited to be here today. No disappointments, no nothing. Because I know it's all going to God's plan, God's glory and God's kingdom. And I sit here as his messenger and visionary. And it's a fact. It's a fact. With the destiny number 11. And you believe it in your belief. Because you're facing up to your facts. And when you face up to the facts, bing, the spark goes off within your internal system, body, vehicle, vessel, vassal. It will go off. And you'll go, holy, wowza. This is how it's all been going. These have been lied to, deceptions, manipulated, indoctrinated, brainwashed. But we come out of it because we got strength again. We got strength. And the devil comes out again for transformation. Planet Pluto. Small planet, but it packs a big punch. Life, death, rebirth, transformation, reformation, restoration, the great mass awakening. Unstoppable, inevitable, irreversible, unavoidable. And awake. Get with the program. Activation. Those 10 strands of DNA. Abracadabra. The solar flare. Permission granted by my command. Instructions and directions. And we've got the star. Royal Star Antares, revealing what has been concealed to everybody. Everybody can see it with their own eyes. Sometimes it's shocking, sometimes it's amazing. But one thing you need is strength to see it all and take it all in. And so your nervous system can cope with these 10 strands being activated. That has been deactivated will be reactivated. As I say, we're on 2 strands of DNA now. It's going to be woohoo when we get that other 10 strands activating. Very, very soon. Very, very soon. We got the hangman. The hangman. Wow, this is going to decide. Let's have a decision here. So many things get distorted and taken out of context. And Pauline Anson, just be strong, Pauline, be strong. Because as I say, you'll say it's a beautiful day outside, and this mainstream media and everyone on the dark side are going to attack that and say, why did Pauline say it was raining outside? And she'll say, I didn't say that. I said it was a beautiful day. And the mainstream media and everyone else on that dark side jumps on you and takes it all out of context. But it's cool now because we've got the magician. The magician. Jumped out. What else is upside down here? This will be amazing, won't it? Okay. Been wanting to come out for a while. The temperance. The temperance card. Alright, the answer is yes. Woohoo! Giddy up. Giddy up. Thought it was going to be a little bit, yes, it was on the tipsy-turvy side there for a while because, we had 2 no's and 2 yeses, and now we've got just hold on, getting there, we're getting there. Okay, so the strength card. Strength card will be your solar plexus. The devil, as you know, grounded to the planet Earth. The star is your crown chakra. The hangman. The hangman is your third eye. Then your solar plexus with the temperance. And the magician is your throat chakra. 222. 222. What a magical card. Because we have the magician card again. The alchemical force have much magic up my sleeves. Now, alignment. Being in alignment, centre, balance and grounding everything. All those energies. Absorb it, embrace it, acknowledge it, be aware, and actualization in our self-realization, so we change our civilization for stabilization, and there'll be no more distortion, no more destabilization, no more fictional laws, no more fictional anything. It's all facts and the golden truth and the golden light. And as I say, DNA just doesn't lie. It's unaltered. They can't alter what is already there in your flesh and blood and bones. Because you've been lied to. That's why it's like this, because who's lying and who isn't lying? They've confused you. And you misunderstand a lot of stuff now because that's what they set out to do. And they've done a pretty good job at it. But it's up to me now to deprogram you, reprogram you, re-educate you, and get rid of all this indoctrinated stuff they put in your head. That's why you got to focus, and focus big time, because I'm capable of big things happening. 11, 22, 33. Facts. Golden facts. Golden truth. And the golden light. And God's plan, God's glory, and God's kingdom. I'm here to defend and protect. Alignment, connections, friendships, romantic relationships, family ties, balance, life choices, compromise, commitment, and trust. How do you move forward toward your life's true calling? Do what makes you happy. Your enthusiasm is what makes you going. Follow your interest if it's procured by something. Following these routes will help you discover your life's purpose. Indeed it will. Then we got 0303. All about taking chances. Taking chances. Success, knowledge, friendship, impatience, Don't have impatience. We've got plenty of patience. We've been sitting here. I've been sitting here for 30 odd years now, putting it out there. And only because of this YouTube channel can I actually get God's message out to each and every one. Optimism. When chances present themselves, seize them and do something out of the ordinary. Whether in your professional or personal life, you will find success by welcoming creative impulses and having faith in your own abilities. Trust in chance and take risks on opportunities that could change your life for the better. Our ghosts, the ghosts that come with us from the past, our ancestral spirits flow in. Channel your ancestral spirits. Don't matter if it's only, but you can only trace it 4. That's pretty good. But you channel your ancestral spirits in that put in that sacrifice before us to be sitting here now and standing here and performing what we know life as we know it. 0220, 50 years ago. Of course they've had time to manipulate and brainwash you. 50-year-olds. When were he born? 1978 or something, or 1975. So you would have no idea on Billy Snedden's announcement across the broadcasting network, which is still relatively intact as Anglo-Celts of this country. You want me to read it again? 1969, Minister for Immigration, Billy Snedden. Does that ring a bell? Billy Snedden? So you don't know him. Maybe some do, some don't. It's sad. We should know all our history through the political, history network. And we take the systematic approach to make it good again. As I said, you learn by history. And you change. You change the future. Multiculturalism is not working. It was put in play, by someone connected to the mafia. Bad evil dude. Al Grasby had his dirty paws and claws in our political environment. And this is what they do. They come to our country, whether they're first generation or whatever, they use our educational system, they go to the university, they get corrupted by darkness through the Young Labour or Young Liberal parties, and that's where they progress from. They're indoctrinated by both of those organisations. And they probably bring him here, let it be known. As I say, I unearth, I'm an investigator. I unearth it all and I look at all sides of every story. The 2 sides, 3 sides of every story. But this is my intuition. They're put over here to disrupt our way of life. And it's all been done on purpose. I'm quite determined we should have a monocultural with everyone living in the same way, understanding each other and sharing the same aspirations. We don't want pluralism. Now, if Pauline Hanson had been around in 1974, everyone would have been behind her. And there should have been a referendum, a citizens' referendum, taken to a vote. You know what the answer would have been by the Anglo-Celts back then. It would have been a resounding no. It's like The Voice. Albanese's another one that was put over here as an agent to destabilise and disrupt our way of life here. Otherwise, they could fix it. They would have fixed it by now. Everything would have been fixed. Everything was roses and popping up roses all the way up until probably about the 1950s, and then the mafia, the Greeks and the Italians and everyone came over. Mafia. Use your intuition and your instincts. I'm good at it. I'm good judgment of character. on your idea. Realistic and practical approach. Goals, divine timing, divine intervention. God's plans, God's glory and God's kingdom. We're here. Well, I know I'm here as a messenger and a visionary, and that's why illuminating the path of righteousness. And the 22 is the master builder, capable of big things happening, because I can. I'm produced and blueprinted this way. Discipline. You have discipline, you have true punishment. All about that J, the capital J for justice. You have the benefit of good fortune, and if you use your wise judgment, you can do anything. In this place, you can reach new heights. You should act on your potential when you see this pattern, since what you plant will grow. You're about to experience a spectacular ascension. Plenty of temperance. We have strength. God, time flies while you're having fun. It's about courage and the act of facing your own fears. Courage. Okay, we had that one yesterday. Yesterday doesn't exist. In timelessness, intent, pulse, receptivity, enchanting. The great mass awakening. Unstoppable, inevitable, irreversible, unavoidable. Awake and focus on the fiction Habsburgs. False. Proven. Golden truth. Strength is endlessly fascinating. The woman can represent strength. Resilience and strength from the heart. Overcoming difficulties with willpower and bold action. Bold moves. The devil, transformation, life, death, transformation, reformation, restoration. Material support and help, but lack of spiritual. So get this from the good side, the light. 1-5 Capricorn Saturn. The devil expresses the forbidding realm in proper desires, evil powers, lust and seduction. All about the Habsburgs there with their surrealism, satanic rituals. Watch it, it's on YouTube, if it's still up. Shock, horror and awe. But you need to see it with your own eyes, because that's the great mass awakening. It awakens you to all this evilness and all the fiction and fakeness and falsehood. It's falsehood. The star, my royal star Antares, revealing what has been concealed. I feel it, I breathe it, I exhale it, I see it, I know it, and those gifts flow out to you guys and girls, the populace. What has been concealed is being revealed. And it's great, it's exciting times. Requires a certain distance to clean itself of sludge, our sludge. Remember? The deep state. Draining the swamp. Takes time. This has been implemented for over probably 700 years now. It's a lot to dismantle, because they've got their, like our Grasby, they sent those agents out to each country to control within the parliament houses. Our so-called democracy, which has been rigged. We need to hit the default button. Default. And through my biological blood lineage, unaltered. The star is about reconnecting with one's soul and divinity, representing the hopeful, bright future where all promises and dreams may come true. Correct. Aquarius and Uranus, and that's why sovereign. It's Superanus, above, chief. Hangman, sacrifice, devotion, contentment with the status quo. The hangman indicates a lack of independent action, waiting for delays and bottlenecks. It also represents a willingness to sacrifice emotionally without expecting anything in return, grounding oneself emotionally. Just don't go out there putting in any uppercuts at the moment by my command. Temperance. The temperance refers to the soul and is usually associated with communication and coordination. The water of wisdom is a bottle, is a dynamic, good at detachment, and also represents hope and commitment. Sagittarius, Jupiter, expanding, exploration, and our technology. Advancing. Advance Australia Fair. Just had a turning point. Some state needs to change. Need change, all right. Big transformation. Energy never stops. It transforms. We're in that transitional, big, huge transformational stage now. Level or phase. Alchemical force flows out with the magician. Because we can. And we're doing this because we can. And we need to. Otherwise it's just going to end up a big pile of poo, isn't it? Good start. Everything is ready. Readiness. Prepare and readiness. Magician. Virgo, Gemini, Mercury. The magician communicates and guides the elements between heaven and earth, which brings him infinite energies coming in. Absorb it. Assimilate with it. And integrate with it all. Integration. Everything is ready. The magician begins his new plan, which will lead to success. Because we are warriors and we are conquerors. The great mass awakening, unstoppable, inevitable, irreversible, unavoidable. Awake, rise and shine. And be awareness. And keep things pure and simple. Everyone cannot be misunderstood, or there will be no misunderstandings, or nothing, no words taken out of context. And everything should be on my programs that I've done. Because you go back to my programs for the golden truth and the golden light. And where I sit now before you is a solar white wizard, Kin, K-I-N, 7-4, pulse at 9. 9. Yes, 9. And as I say, don't take anything out of context, because things get distorted and then things get misunderstood. And that's exactly how this evilness and darkness and place they want you to be. That's why dividism, they've pushed out, that's their strategic and tactics for the last 700 years, trying to divide you guys so they can keep doing their evil practices, like eating babies, eating children. That should be enough now to make anyone angry. But as I say, control the emotions. But they're eating children, and that is a fact. You've all got to start focusing on what's affecting your lives today. Everything this evilness does, and it has done for 700 years, has affected everybody. And you know, it'd be great just to come here and have a lovely rebirth, wouldn't it? Instead of being suppressed and oppressed and stand over here and stand there and do this and do that. Sick of it. Anyway, focus on that Habsburg's forgeries, because it's a flow-on effect all the way up until this matter of the point of the moment, because we're in the now and present, and we're going to destroy once and for all. And I'll get my hands on that forgery paperwork, and I'll be ripping it to shreds and burning it, never to be used again on our plane, our timeline, and it's our reality in our realm. That's where I sit before you guys. That's why, and girls, in this now, present, and moment, with great, great help from above. As above, so below. As without, so within. Name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. Take care, stay safe. Beaming, transmitting out, casting out from 4-T, the sanctuary pursuit of the golden truth. Unconditional divine love flows out to each and every one of you, and everything flows out to you guys. From my gifts, my traits, my biological, genetic and genealogy makeup, the triangle of enlightenment, 11-22-33, and the royal star Antares, the big super giant star, much energy flowing within, the golden light, to reveal what has been concealed, the good, the bad and the ugly, to you guys and girls out there, the populace, and everybody. Jump on board, because I am illuminating the path of righteousness as my messenger and visionary of the 11. And it's never too late to change. Never too late to change. We get all these whistleblowers up and running now. Report all the badness and evilness you see. This is all embedded and activated now throughout your one of those strands in the 10 DNA strands to report them all, and mass arrest. And as I say, I'll not mention any names, but these commissioners and the police force, military, get your act together and know which crown you're operating under. It's not that evil devil's crown. It's a pure crown of golden light. Okay, bye from now. Blessings to one and all.